For about 600 years now, there's been this one book that has just stumped the world's greatest minds. It's called the Voynich Manuscript. And when you open it, you see these bizarre plants, really strange diagrams, and a script that looks, for all the world, like a real language. But so far, it hasn't given up a single one of its secrets. But here's a thought. What if we've been looking at it completely wrong? What if the point of this book wasn't to hide a message, but to do something else entirely? Asking that one single question, well, it changes absolutely everything about how we approach this mystery. For hundreds of years, everyone's been asking, what does it say? But maybe, just maybe, the real question, the one we might actually be able to answer, is what was this book designed to do? It's like we've been trying to pick a lock on a door that was never meant to be opened.
Now, to really get to the bottom of this, we don't need to go through all 240 pages. Nope. The entire genius of this thing, and maybe its deception, is right there on a single page. So let's do that. Let's put one page under the microscope and see what we find.
Okay, so a typical botanical page has these 5 parts. You've got the plant drawing itself, right? With these weirdly emphasized roots and flowers. And then it's surrounded by these blocks of that totally baffling text. Every single one of these elements is a clue. Not to what the page means, but to how it's engineered to make us feel.
There's this great term for the effect it has on you, a semantic near miss. The plants, they look almost familiar. You get this nagging feeling that you should recognize them, but you just can't place them. They're designed to just hover right at the edge of your memory, and it creates this very specific, a cognitive itch. And this little comparison right here shows you just how deliberate that feeling is. A normal medieval herbal, it might be drawn kinda crudely, sure, but you can still look at it and go, okay, that's a dandelion. The Voynich manuscript, though, it does something totally different. It's not just inaccurate, it's strategically wrong. It mashes together parts from completely different plants in ways that are just botanically impossible. It's designed so you can't place it. So the pictures are designed to mess with your head. What about the text? Well, it doesn't look like some crazy, frantic scribbling. It flows. The handwriting is super consistent, it's confident. It honestly gives off this vibe of a real, normal language, written by someone who's so used to it they're not even thinking about it. Almost like they're bored. And when you zoom in, the illusion totally holds up. You see clear spaces between words that get repeated. It even follows these statistical patterns, like something called Zipf's law, that you see in real languages. But, and this is a huge but, there's the catch. It's too perfect. The randomness and complexity, what scientists call entropy, it's weirdly low. It's just too clean, too regular to be a messy, naturally evolved human language. Okay, so it looks like a language, but it doesn't act like a language. The next logical step, right, is to think it's some kind of code. But as we're about to see, all the usual suspects, all the common theories for how it could be a code, they just fall apart. Look, if this was a simple substitution cipher, where A equals X, B equals P, and so on, it would have been cracked centuries ago. Seriously. Those kinds of codes leave statistical fingerprints all over the place. Like in English, the letter E shows up constantly. The Voynich text, it has none of those giveaways. It's almost like it's a cipher that's smart enough to hide the fact that it's a cipher. All right, so what about a lost language? Maybe one nobody's ever heard of? It's a tempting idea for sure, but it crashes into that same problem again, perfection. Real languages are messy. They're full of irregularities. They borrow words from other languages. They evolve over time. The Voynich text feels sterile. It's too hygienic. It's missing all that beautiful chaos that actually defines how we humans communicate. And this is the point where we have to just start thinking differently. If it's not a cipher and it's not a language, then what on earth is it? We have to move past these simple labels and think about a much more sophisticated purpose. This might not be about the content at all. It might be about the object itself. So what if the Voynich manuscript is what you might call a credential artifact? Okay, imagine this. You're an alchemist, maybe a scholar, back in the day, and you're trying to get money from some rich patron. You show up and present this book. It's gorgeous, it's complex, and it clearly holds knowledge way beyond what the patron can understand. It's not meant to be read by them. It's meant to prove your authority and genius.
So here's the crucial point. The goal isn't communication, it's a performance. The book's real value comes from its power to prove that the owner has access to some deep, secret knowledge. In that world, being unreadable isn't a bug, it's a feature. It's the whole point.
And that, right there, opens up another really fascinating door. If we just stop trying to read it for information, what happens if we start treating it as an object to interact with, like a tool for thinking instead of a box full of facts? This brings us to this wild idea of a cognitive forcing device. The manuscript just pulls you in with all its patterns and structures. It actually rewards you for noticing repetitions, for seeing connections. But the second you try to assign a literal meaning, to say this word means that, it shuts you down completely. It's designed to force your brain into a state of contemplation, not description. And that brings us to the most mind-bending part of this entire story. The secret of the Voynich Manuscript, it isn't hidden in the text. The secret is the text. It's all about the nature of information itself. Think about it. We are hardwired to believe that when we see a complex structure, it must lead to meaning. It's the basic promise of every language, every code. The Voynich Manuscript just violates that promise. It uses all the superficial tricks of linguistic structure to build a wall, to actively block you from interpreting it. It's a brilliant and, frankly, a very frustrating paradox. Here's a way to picture it using information theory. On a small scale, word to word, sentence to sentence, the text is super ordered. It has low entropy. But on a global scale, when you try to pull out any kind of coherent, big picture message, it's total chaos, high entropy. It's a system that is perfectly structured to give you zero accessible information. So let's just reframe this whole thing. The Voynich Manuscript is not a failure. It's not some code we just haven't been smart enough to crack or a language we've forgotten. It is a perfectly designed object that does its job flawlessly. And what is its job? To generate endless questions, to feel completely bottomless, to be a perpetual motion machine of interpretation. And that's really the ultimate takeaway here. The Voynich teaches us something profound, that a secret doesn't have to be a hidden piece of information, a fact. A secret can just be a pattern, a system, a structure that promises meaning but never, ever delivers. It exists purely in its architecture of mystery. And that might be a secret far more incredible than any hidden message could ever be.